Okay, so hello everyone to all of the people who joined us, and hello Dick. We're very glad to have you on our lockdowns masterclass, and today it's with you to speak about your work, and in particular, like we talked about it yesterday, your work with the English director Leigh. And we'll host the conference with, as I said, Loic, a student in first year in the Louis-Lumière school, and thank you very much to Laurent Stellin, Alexandre Vigier, Noé Merclé, everybody who's organizing those meetings. So thank you very much. If you have any questions about what's going on, what Dick is saying, or what is said in this conference, just put it in the chat or open your microphone if it's a good time to do it and ask the question. There's no problem. So
is there a picture, a video picture of Laurent there?
So we're gonna start, this conference with an entering point of your career, Dick. When we're gonna show a small movie clip named Ghost Town from the group The Station, and that's one of your early work you've did in 1983, I think, if it's correct.
It's the specials.
The specials, yeah. So we're going to show this and start this masterclass from this point, because it's one of your early work. Okay, so that's one of your early jobs, early work as a DOP, and you said to me that you had a lot of music and documentary experiences, and I think it's interesting to start from here. What was your job at the time? With who did you work before you met Leigh and before you did the first film, Life is Easy?
Well, when I started to shoot, to be a cameraman, I don't know about DP. We never used that expression. That was like Hollywood style. So, but when I became a cameraman, I suppose it was about 6 years before I met Mike, and during that 6 years, I was shooting. I'd shot before that. I'd already been a cameraman for like 15 years, and I was a documentary cameraman. It sounds really sexist now to say cameraman as opposed to camera person, but I actually can't say that. Camera women, cameramen. I was a cameraman, and so I shot. I shot documentaries for about 10 years or so. In a very good time in the UK for documentaries, very, very wonderful time for documentaries. And in documentaries before that, I'd been an assistant for about 7 or 8 years. So I had, about 15, 17 years of experience doing documentaries. And anyway, I specialized in films, anthropological films about tribes, very observational, not like films, the documentary films are made now with the presenter presenting, and it's all about the presenter and little about the people he or she are filming. But it was a classic style then of documentaries, and I worked on films like that about tribes all over the world, and staying with them for a period of time. And I also did quite a lot of political films as well for left-wing, sort of a left-wing documentary series, a weekly series on English television. I worked on that first as an assistant and then as a cameraman. So by the time the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s came, it was the time of music videos, right? And I became very disillusioned, a bit bored with doing documentaries. I wanted to move on. I was quite ambitious, and so I started to do music videos, and that one there that we just showed is quite interesting because it's very documentary style in a way. It is like a documentary, a little documentary. I mean, I had a few lights with me. I just happened to be asked by a friend of mine who was producing it, and I went along. I'd never met the director. One Friday night, it was on a Friday night, London, and I knew we were going to work through the night, and that's what we did. A few lights, a camera, and we kind of put it together without me even having had any dialogue or meeting with the director whatsoever. And so we just did it in the one night. And the next morning, when the guys at the end are throwing stones in the river, that was the end of our work. It was like through the night, and then we finished with that, and that was it. So I used to do them. Sometimes I would do 3 music videos a week. And it was after a while, it really takes a lot out of you. But that's what I used to do, and I suppose it was quite good having come from doing documentaries, thinking on your feet, not too set in your ways, pretty flexible. It served me well in them because I would turn up and they would say, well, this is what we're going to do. And there wouldn't be a lot of preparation. It would just be, running, hit and run, go in there, do it and walk away. So in a way, a little bit like I work with Mike Leigh.
So why do you say it takes a lot out of you? Because you did too much, or?
Yes, it's very intense. And the hours were horrendous. So I mean, like that one there, I mean, we went and we filmed from like 6 o'clock in the evening through to about 8, 9 o'clock next morning. And, you imagine that 3 times a week, they always went late, always. Sometimes the bands, the groups, they wouldn't even get out of bed before midday. So we'd find ourselves starting in the evening, and working through the night. I did lots of music videos, lots of bands, and I also did lots of concerts as well, because the concert shooting very much came out of the documentaries that I worked on. Being able to shoot live concerts, it was natural for me because I'd just done so much documentary work. I'd just give me the camera and I'd shoot. So it was like that.
All right. And so you did this for a while, and afterwards, 6 years after, you said you meet Mike Leigh for the first time.
Yeah, I did this for a while, the music videos, and I wanted to go and work in drama. I say drama, television, drama, movies. I wanted to shoot fiction, but I didn't really quite know how to get there, and so I stopped doing documentaries. I made myself stop. I didn't accept documentaries anymore. And then one of the music videos I shot was for Tina Turner, and somebody called me completely out of a stranger, got on the phone to me and told me that he very much liked the filming that I did on this Tina Turner music video, and would I shoot his film? And that's how I got started.
That was Mike Leigh.
No, it was
no,
not.
it wasn't. It was before.
Yeah, no, this was before. Mike Leigh's the first film I did with him was Life is Sweet, and I'd already been shooting the drama for about 6 years when I met him. But that's how it happened for me. It was complete luck. The guy saw something I did, and the first thing he asked me to do, it was a TV film, and I did that, and then he asked me to do another one, And the second one, another TV film, was presented to the Cannes Film Festival for competition. And so this is a film in the Welsh language, not even in the English language, in the Welsh language. But it was a great little film, and it got accepted into Cannes. I think it was either Director's Fortnight or Certain Regard. And anyway, so it became a film. From being a TV show, it became a film, and then it was reviewed as a film. And suddenly I was filming movies, not TV, and I was away. So that's how it worked.
All right.
And
I was very lucky.
And on these first movies you shot after the documentaries and the music videos, did you keep like this same way of filming, the run and the gun, the documentary style like you have on Mike Leigh's, or it was very different?
Yeah, it was different. It was different. But, yeah, I mean, it was different because, well, some of them were had a lot of lighting, which is something I never really learned about in documentaries. That's what I learned in music videos. That's why music videos were so essential for me, because I learned to light and to use lights. And then when I was in fact that guy who rang me up and asked me to do his film after he saw the Tina Turner music video, he was really precise guy, a really precise director. Everything was absolutely precision. So the run and gun thing, that went away, and it was like really precise. Both films were, and then I did a couple of other films, 2 or 3 other films before I met Mike Leigh, and they were all pretty different, but precision. And then I met Mike, and I think he wasn't interested in the music videos I'd done. Mike was much more interested in the documentaries I'd shot, and he knew some of them, and I showed him more, and he loved that because he wanted someone, again, like I said before, who was going to be pretty unfazed and flexible, because of course there is no script, and he makes it up as he goes along, basically. So he wanted someone who wasn't going to be phased by this method of working which he has.
And how did you come to meet him?
No, he had a DP who he used, and that DP was asked to do a film that he really wanted to do, and so he went off to do it, and Mike had only ever worked with him as a DP. He'd never worked with anybody else, and this guy went off and he did his film that he wanted to do, and Mike needed a DP, and there was on that film I was talking to you about, the one that went to Cannes, there was a script supervisor, script girl, as a script supervisor on it, and I'd done a couple of things with her. We got on very well together, and she thought I'd be a good match with Mike. She thought we'd get on, so she put me up for his film where he's looking for a DP, and so through her I was introduced to Mike and had and got to meet him. All
right, so maybe we're gonna just step into your collaboration with Mike Leigh, starting with we didn't had the time to do every movie, of course, of your collaboration between you and Mike Leigh. There's a lot, but we're gonna start not with the first one, but with the second one you did with him. That was Naked. That's the film, and I'm gonna let Louis introduce it if you want.
Yes, so we're gonna see 6 movies you've done together. For every one of them, we're gonna see a little sequence to show to the persons here what the film is about, how it is. So we're gonna start with Naked, which came out in 1993. It tells the story of Johnny, a lost man who treats women horribly. He crashes in London at his ex-girlfriend's place, where he meets her flatmate Sophie. He seduces both girls before leaving to wander around the city, talking to strangers and experiencing dimensions of life. In this sequence, we're going to show the flatmate who fell for Johnny is obsessed with him, so he ends up leaving to explore the city. Laurent, du coup, tu peux mettre la petite séquence de Naked.
Can you just hold it there before you show it?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, of course.
Okay, so...
Attends, Laurent, attends 30 seconds.
Yeah, attends.
Yeah,
So,
go on.
just to say that this film, the first film that I did with him was pretty sort of, was a very nice film. I really liked it, but it was nothing really big, like challenge-wise. But this second one, Naked, which the actor won the prize at Cannes. He won Best Actor for this, David Thewlis. And in fact, the film was very, very popular in France. And if you see the film, you know why. But what I was going to say was that I did the film with Bleach Bypass process. And Bleach Bypass, there were, you know, not that many, but some films done at the time. I wanted something, Mike wanted it to be quite extreme. He described it to me as a kind of nighttime journey through London, a nocturnal journey through London with lots of sex, is the way he said it to me. And it's like Dickensian journey across London at night. And so we talked about it, and I had this experience of working with Roger Deakins on 1984. And Roger did that film with Bleach Bypass, and I really liked the way that looked. So I decided to explore it for this film and give it a harder, a really sort of punk, almost a real punk hard look. And that's what we did. And right now, I'm in the process of restoring it, because this version that we're going to see is by Criterion in America, a special edition. And they did. I wasn't involved in the timing of this, and but it's okay. It's not great, but next year there'll be a copy which I'm restoring in London for the BFI, and it'll be pretty good because I've done most of it now. It finished, all the work finished during lockdown, but we're going to bring it back to the way it really was back then. What we're going to see is kind of a simulation of what it really was. Bleach Bypass, it doesn't look like it does on the video here, but you can imagine it, and that's all that.
All right.
You can
maybe we showed the clip. We could discuss a bit about the film, and after I think it's interesting to speak about your experience of restoration, even if it was like interrupted, but
all right,
I think it could be interesting. So
all right, so in this sequence, you play a lot with the architectural space of the apartment. We know that you and Mike Leigh always shoot on location. How does it happen? How do you prep the locations? Does Mike Leigh consult you for lighting, for example?
Not really, no. No, I'd say no. I mean, we don't really talk about that. We talk about, I suppose, you know, more about the essence of what is required, of what the film is going to be broadly. I mean, broad, about how, you know, and on this, as I say, we talked about, and I did tests for him to show him how that Bleach Bypass was going to look. I did those tests with the production designer, with the costume designer as well, makeup. I did quite a lot of testing and to come up with the colors, the palette, and the way. But Mike, during all this period, is often with the actors, not really with me. Our conversation that we had, the main conversations, was probably a few months, certainly more than a few months before we started. You know, I mean, the prep is, he's not there a lot for the prep. I prep it, and sometimes he's there, sometimes he comes to have a look at a location, but mostly he's with the actors. So it's a very different kind of experience. And then, so he had seen the tests that we did, and he really liked the look, and that was it. He had that confirmed to him that, and confirmed to me that we would do it with that Bleach Bypass look. He loved it. And so the whole company, so to speak, headed towards shooting with that in mind, and for colours, testing colours, because the colours change with Bleach Bypass. Red is no longer quite red. Blue is no longer quite blue. It's like that.
Maybe you can explain just a little bit more what is Bleach Bypass? How do you process with the
right,
film
okay.
and everything?
Do the students know Bleach Bypass?
Maybe some of them, but some of them not. I think it's good to have a little reminder.
Okay, so the Bleach Bypass is a process, obviously on film, not on digital. You could simulate it on digital with the press of a button, but it's not quite the same thing. The film is the look on film is much more organic and pretty brutal. You can soften it in the camera, but what it is skipping the bleach stage in the processing of the print. It's a print process, so it's not actually on the negative at all. It's only on the print. And so now, it's, without getting really overly complicated, because people could read about it themselves, without getting overcomplicated, basically, it's a surprise every time you see the dailies every day, or whenever you can. It's a surprise how it comes out. It's kind of a mystery. It's the way it reacts in the processing bath, in the developing bath for the negative. The bleach process of bleaching the negative is skipped, and that's what causes it to be really sort of crunchy and contrasty and deep blacks, as deep as you can get. And so that seemed to me to suit the idea Mike had about a nocturnal journey through London. Seemed to me, and in that era of the early of '92, we shot that. It was still a lot of punk. The punk aesthetic, so to speak, was still around, and it seemed to be the right way to go for it. Never ever regretted doing it like that. But I had a collaborator with Mike, who once he decides that he likes what you're showing him, and he agrees with it, he throw himself 100% behind it, and you've got no studio there to argue about it, to say, oh my God, that is so extreme. Everybody looks really ugly, and it's like, you know, thick and is unforgiving. So, I mean, Mike is like, he doesn't have anybody who says that to him. It's his own film, and that's the way he does it. But a few years later, not long after, I did a film with Bleach Bypass, because a director liked that film, like Naked, very much wanted it for his own film. And I shot it with him, but he had a lot of problems with the studio, with the company, about the way the film was so, was so crunchy and intense and dark. They didn't want that. So there were big arguments went on, and I was kind of in the middle. He wanted me to do it that way, but they were very unhappy. So it has to be, like all these things, it has to be something that's agreed, and everybody is happy with that look. It's funny, on that film that they didn't like it. They didn't see it, in fact. They never bothered to see the tests or anything. The first time they saw it was on the first day's rushes, on the first day's works dailies. And they what is this? What the fuck is this looking like this for? Anyway, that was like that. So it's quite funny, really. But that, so that's what Bleach Bypass, you know, you can read about exactly what it is, but there's been quite a few really great films made with Bleach Bypass. And but it's very, very film. It's very, it's the essence of celluloid. It's not really digital. And when I've been restoring it, it's been trying to find a way to make it as it was, but without. I mean, we have a print which we had up on the screen in the DI suite. Had to start again, obviously, because it is a print process. So it wasn't a question of putting out a new version of the film with just a little bit of playing around with it. We had to start from the beginning. So I'm doing a completely new version of the film, which hopefully, and from what I've seen so far, it looks absolutely great. So I'm hoping that it will be as near as it was back then.
Okay.
You talked about the colors in the movie as well, with your relationship with the costumes, the makeup. Do you more or less choose the color palette, and then the makeup, the costumes follow you and your advices, or do you all? No.
No, I don't choose the color palette. I think it would be inappropriate of me to say that I did, really, because that is a collaborative process. That is as much to do with the production designer and the director as it is any time to be my palette. They would almost invariably, it's the production designer who has always, and this is the way things are out there in the real world, is the production designer is on the film, rented on the film, hired on the film, attached to the film much earlier than I am. Now, this is famous. I mean, that's the way life is, because they've got so much work to do in prep. They might have to build sets, advanced sets, that they've got so many things to buy into. They're there a lot earlier than me. So in a way, I go in and that palette has already been discussed quite a lot with the director. This is not on Mike Leigh's films necessarily, they're on all films. Very rare is it for me to get on board a film early enough so that I, for instance, go and see locations right from the beginning. I mean, it does happen, but usually those locations have been not necessarily chosen, but they've looked at a whole load of different locations, the director and the designer, the production designer, before I'm anywhere near it. I might join them and then we go and see some, and I might hate them, but quite often, and I'll say so if I don't think they're going to work, but I will say it. But sometimes it's a done deal. You go in and they've chosen the locations and you have to get on with it. And that happens a lot. So I would say the palette of it is, I'm sure I can have discussions about the palette, and you know we can talk about the palette endlessly, but in a way, the initial palette conversations have already taken place.
Okay. Also, I wondered.
Ask your question. Does that answer your question?
Yes, perfectly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I wondered. The film has quite violent scenes and crude approach to sex, and I know you make up a lot of you're the camera operator as well.
Yes.
So you choose the shots, and I wondered if you had any difficulties in choosing how to shoot such sequences.
Yes. Do you mean generally on films or on Mike's films?
I meant on Naked, but you can talk about every movie as well.
Oh, okay. But you could talk about Naked, because one of the reasons why I wanted to show you that clip then was because it's much less about the lighting, which is, you know, I try to make it as moody and dramatically realistic is real, not natural. I wouldn't call any of the. It's a movie, so it's not really natural. That's a documentary. It isn't a documentary. It's a stylized piece of work. So I would say that it's realism that we're after, not naturalism, if you get the difference. So realistic, yes. Mood, yes. I mean, you know, the hallway in that scene we saw, all I did was, and I worked with the production designer. In fact, the production designer gave me one of those fantastic, like 80s lamps that's made out of bits of bamboo or whatever around it, like a cage, and just with a bare light bulb in it. And there are lots of scenes in the film in those hallways at that house. I didn't use anything else. I just put a bulb in, a clear bulb, into these fittings. Had this wonderful, you know, real crude lamp shades, and that's what I used. You know, I used very simple fittings on it, and in the film. But the scene there was all about how we shot the scene, how we shot it. Now that's the big thing, and of course, you know, I mean, I'm not saying this because I shot it, but I adore the way that scene is shot. I adore it, and when I see a film that has that, and I'm not talking about my intelligence, my kind of, you know, experience, and my knowledge has led me to shoot that, because that is as much about the way Mike Leigh works as it is about the way I work, because it's observational. We never go in there. And this is the thing about Mike. When he's watching the actors, nobody's there. When he watches the actors bring that scene together, I'm not there. Nobody is there, only Mike and the actors. And he always looks at it. Say it's in a house like that was. Mike will be in the hallway looking through the door. He can't get in the room. He doesn't know what's going to happen in the scene. This is all about the way he works. And so he wants to give the actors the freedom to do anything. So he often stands outside and he's got the door open, right? And he's looking in from outside. And so many times, I learned it after a bit. He would always be, you know, looking at the scene from that vantage point of being an observer, that we, the audience, are observing the scene, not getting in there and waving the camera about and being, you know, the camera as an actor. We're very much outside looking at the people inside, like we're an audience watching. And so that scene, you know, of we're looking through the kitchen door, we're looking through the living room door, we're tucked in the hall, looking this way, you know, and you know, it probably took, if I was to be honest, it probably took half a day to prepare that shot. But then it would have taken that, if we'd shot it with many angles and we were going in the kitchen and we're going to cover it in the living room, cover it this way and that way, in the hallway, going into a close-up, down the stairs. Oh, she's got her back to us when David Thewlis walks away and pushes her down. How many directors would be so bold as to not go in there and do him leaving in a close-up, back on her as a close-up, and her misery, and then the scene would be, we'd be all day shooting it anyway, no question. But with Mike, he spent all the time looking through the camera, as well as me looking through the camera, preparing it. He would come on the camera and he would go, right, so you go, and then you go there, you go, and then and you go. So all the time, refining it, run it again. Okay, not there, just there. But he would absolutely, that's what he does. He climbs on the camera as a director and choreographs everything. Once we got the camera there and we've got the, we know we're going to be here and we're going there, or, on the shot like that, of course, it was quite a lot to remember which room they were going in and whether he was going up the stairs or down the stairs. It was quite complicated. But Mike goes on the camera. This is so different to the way a lot of directors work. And I think quite a lot of directors out there whose films would be better if they did this. And that is, they get on the camera themselves, not watching the goddamn monitor down in Video Village and seeing it come together. And why don't you just try panning over you? They're there to climb on the camera itself, get hold of the camera, get on it, and then work out how to choreograph that scene with the actors to make it absolutely perfect. And then after he's finished that, however long it takes, I'll get on the camera and we do a rehearsal for me, and then we shoot it.
I maybe have a question on this point. When you were speaking about the close-ups, like directors who would say, she's in the stairs, go on for a close-up on her and her misery. Do you think, like Mike Leigh and you, when you film the scene from this corridor, showing the kitchen, the living room, the kitchen again, do you think there's a sense of respect in this way of filming? Is there an ethical way of filming, on your opinion or on Mike Leigh's opinion, or do you have divergences?
All right, yeah, it's a good question. Honest, in a way. It has integrity, because you're not making the decisions in the cutting room. I mean, you can be, of course, and you could be improving it, but quite often it's the integrity of letting it run, of the believability of it, the realism of it, that you're not interfering with the process. You're letting the actors absolutely do their best work and absolutely act away, do their best work, and you're not having to say, all right, stop there, we're coming in for a close-up now. You're just letting it run. And his films are like that over and over again. They're like that, where it's kind of, I don't know, honest is the way I'd describe it. I wouldn't say ethical, but I'd say honest. And it leads you to really climb in and be, sometimes very uncomfortably, that you're looking into this world and you're not breaking it up with cuts. Okay.
Yeah, we'll have the chance to get back to those questions of point of view ethics through the not especially ethics, but these questions of point of view through the next clips. Don't know if Louis, you have another question or
no, maybe Dick, if you have something else to say on Naked, or we'll pass on to Secret Motives.
I will say this, because I always remember like a golfer in match play. I always remember what I did on any shot. I always remember it. And I remember that hallway, right? And Mike obviously we wanted to look into the living room at a certain angle, and then we had to go round and look in the kitchen. But we can't get looking in the kitchen because we're over there at the living room. So and then it goes up the stairs. Now, how do we do that? We're blocking the stairs with the camera. He can't move past us, and neither can the girl when the girl's chasing after him. So we can't see properly. Now, if in an ideal world for Mike, we would have been there on a tripod or a bazooka. Those early days I worked with him, he didn't like to move the camera very much. He didn't like to. No dolly shot, no track, if it wasn't motivated. Real pure, real purist. There was no such thing with him like, oh, let's go on a dolly and track down there. Absolutely, why? Why are we going to get on a dolly and move along there? What is the motivation? Everything that the camera does in any of his films is only motivated by one thing, and that's what the actors are doing. So if the actors, if it is motivated by what they're doing, fine. If it's motivated because, oh, wouldn't it be great if we did a track? No way. That just doesn't happen with these films. It has to be motivated. So there's no such thing about setting things up beforehand, like, okay, guys, we're over here. We're going to do this as a big, long tracking shot. And you know, you walk a lot. Absolutely the opposite of way Mike works. We'd be looking at what happens, how it happens, and whether or not, and then how to shoot it.
So just
the thing is, the important thing to say about all this is that when Mike first shows me a scene, I'm not there alone. I'm there with a whole company, all of us in a great big group, pressed against the wall, up the stairs, wherever, all crowded back. And he'll run the scene that we've never seen. Okay, whatever. Every scene is the same with his films. We haven't seen it yet. So first thing is, he shows us the scene. And then he, basically, he asks everybody to leave. After everybody's seen it, sound, everybody. So everybody goes, and they all go off the set and leave us alone, him and I, with the actors. And then we'll run it with the actors and Mike and I alone. And he'll run the actors over and over again from every different vantage point, angle, and until we have an idea of how we're going to shoot it and where we're going to be at any given time. Then we'll make a list, a shot list of how we're going to do it. It might be one shot like that was, it might be 20 shots, it might be a week's work, he shows me. And so we work it out, and then we invite everybody back in, and Mike and the actors will go off, and then we'll decide what we're going to do first. And Mike always usually asks me what we're going to do first, because he's happy for it to be daylight led, you know, with the important light coming in, natural light, first thing in the day. When it gets dark, we can looking the other way into the room or whatever we're doing. So we make a shot list, and then, okay, we'll start, he says to me, right, we'll start there. And okay, that's the first shot. Everybody in the company, this is the first shot. Then Mike goes off with the actors, and they go off and rehearse that scene even more. He just doesn't stop. He never relaxes on while he's working. He'll go off with the actors, and they will run that scene over and over again, somewhere else, in another building probably, usually in another house. And he'll run it while I'm getting ready. And he asks me, how long do you think you're going to be? And I give him as honest an answer as I can. And because he doesn't like it if I say to him, oh, it's only going to be, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then I take an hour. That doesn't go down well, because he wants to know how long he's got to rehearse, and he does it, and to pace it. So I learned very quickly when I worked with him not to be optimistic about how long it was going to take, and be realistic about how long. And then he'll come back, and then we run it for me. He gets on the camera and then choreographs it like we've just been talking about. And that's the way we work. And so going back to that hallway, we couldn't do it on a fixed position. We had to have a dolly there. So we had like an Elimac dolly, I think it was, either an Elimac or a Peewee. And we put a board down, a little dance floor in the hall. And so we did that. You can't even see the cameras moving. It's like invisible, which is just like Mike likes it. So no big track. So then we're here, and then we just do that, and then we do that. And then we allow the actors past us, and we're there, and we're down, and we're back, and forth, and like that. And so there's probably about 8-10 moves in it, but invisible. So we are using equipment, but it's very subtle.
All right. Very interesting. I think we're going to come back to those questions of how do you organize the day, the lighting, everything through the other clips. Maybe we can go through the next one who is
Yes, Secrets and Lies. It came out in 1996. It won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Festival. And it's a film about a family that's been split apart, keeping secrets from each other. And when they all finally regroup, the truth can no longer be hidden and everything explodes. This sequence that we've chosen to show you is about the only man in the family, Maurice, played by Timothy Spall, who's a photographer, and we see him working.
Okay, that's lovely. So it took you 15 years, yeah?
Yes.
They give you a prize?
No.
Not even a stethoscope or something? Lovely.
This sequence is really apart from the rest of the movie. Would you like to speak about the sequence first, or the general movie before?
No, I just think that's I like that because it's a very good example about the way that we work. You know, simple, very, very simple. So we're there where he goes back, obviously, you know, we see it in other scenes. He's got his camera there on a tripod, and we're basically in the position that he's taking the pictures from. We just leave it there, let it run. And then Mike is like, he's been with, you know, nobody in that scene are extras. They're all actors. And a lot of the people who play the little parts there are all people that Mike's been working with for years. So they're all like really experienced actors. And even though they're just doing that little bit in the film, Mike would have had them in there, and he would be, you know, building a character with them in his period where he builds characters. Every one of them would have gone through like the characterization before we got to the day, and then he would be there again on the camera. And why don't you take the ring out and working it out? So nothing just by chance, all studied and honed, you know, made as good as we could get.
And for all these different photographs, did you try to create a special lighting mood or a special composition? Did you do them, or did Mike do them?
I can't remember, but no, but I think really we had the conversation beforehand about the fact that we would do it from the camera position where the photographer would be taking it, and that was it. I mean, we certainly weren't going to be, you know, covering it and going in there. It was going to be just held, and these were all like vignettes, you know, moments, and you know, they're all. If you see the scene a few times, they're all doing different things. They're all acting away, doing different things. They've all got different agendas. I love it like that. But that's the one thing I know we did do was I had a big flash gun, a big, powerful, old-fashioned flash gun, because the electronic flash is no good because it just lasts for a boom. But with a bulb, the old-fashioned flash guns, we would have arranged when I took it, when I took the flash, and I would fire the flash at the very moment where I thought, you know, it should be.
Yeah. It's not about this sequence, but the movie became famous with different scenes that are one-shot sequences with fixed frames, like the barbecue scene or the scene where the black girl meets her mother. And why did you decide
cafe.
to?
Yeah, in the cafe.
Yeah. So when did this decision of building such scenes with only one shot in that takes very long and that gives the emotion to come in?
Well, sometimes it's like that, but other times we will shoot different different shots. Like that famous scene in the cafe where they're sitting side by side and having a cup of tea when they first meet. That scene, we shot other angles on that. I don't think we, at that point, I don't think we had the courage really to say, this is just going to be one shot. Because the scene went on for so long, I think we thought, and I did a wide shot, and the wide shot's still there actually. But then we did boom, boom, that way, 2 ways, and a few other angles. But when they got into the cutting room, when Mike got into the cutting room and explored that 2 shot, and with the editor, they just decided to throw all the others away and just do it on that. So that was a decision really made in the cutting room. I think it would have been very, very bold to, because that scene is like 4.5, 5 minute shot, I think, and just to hold it as the one shot without actually trying covering it. But yeah, there we go. The barbecue scene that you're talking about in the film, that was only done as 1 shot. They often are, but sometimes like that, there are other angles, and then it's a decision you can make later.
Yes. Okay. Well, we can pass on to the next movie.
Maybe I have just a question on Secrets and Lies, because there's a lot of actors from the, maybe I could call it the Mike Leigh troupe, like Tim Stoll, or a lot of famous actors that are often in Mike Leigh's movies and that you've worked with. And
yes,
I've always wondered how does it go on? Is it really like a theatre troupe, as these actors know each other really well now? I think so. Or is it just for the movie? How do you work with those maybe friends now?
Yes, there's they are like a company of players, like Shakespearean actors going off around, all together, staying together, living very close to each other. It is like that with his films. I mean, Mike's wife is in there. Alison Steadman, who's been in many of his films, with the dog, fluffing the dog. In fact, the dog, that was their dog. And, that's actually their dog. And then, the older lady with the cat, Mike did High Hopes with her. She was the main actress in High Hopes. So no, that's absolutely right. I mean, these are a whole group of players who Mike will bring in, and they're always happy if it's only a small role, a small little, a day. They might be doing a theatre production or another film, but they'll come along and they'll do it for Mike. And of course, if they've done it with him before, they know how he works, and it's very easy then for Mike to just make it happen with them just for a small moment. But it's wonderful. That it's absolutely wonderful. It's like many of these actors are friends. Yeah, over the years, it's quite a great thing to be returning with them to a film.
Yeah, it's funny because you were speaking about the moment when the whole crew comes up and see the scene to know how it's going to look like, where the actors are going to go to walk around. Everything is like a bit of a theatre also at the beginning, when the whole crew is watching and then you film it.
It's like an audience for it. First time they've shown it, apart from to Mike, it's like to 40 people, 30, 40 people all stood there. It's like them going out and doing a sort of dress rehearsal for it on a stage. It is like that. And of course, sometimes on Secrets and Lies, it is so emotional, the journey, because of the young black girl finding her birth mother. That's a big what do you call it? A big emotional journey that the girl undertakes to find her birth mother, only to find this young, very successful young black girl who's an optometrist, very almost middle class really, finding her birth mother to be white and you know, like working class, hopeless, alcoholic-y type person. So it's absolutely turns everything on its head. So you know, how can you be my mother? How can you be my daughter? And exploring their relationship. Fantastic. So quite often, when these scenes are shown to us as we go through the film, there'll be people in the crew who will be, you know, emotionally upset.
Mm.
They'll be crying, whatever. I mean, because
Really?
sometimes the emotion of what's going on is just too much.
And maybe I just have a last question, but it's quite general. These actors, when they play those difficult parts sometimes, do you feel, Mike Leigh, does he speak to you like 5 months among the shooting? Does he ring to you? Does he ring you and says it's going to speak about this relationship between Vera Drake and, or does he tell you what will be the story, or do you discover it completely when you arrive on the first day of your prep?
Yeah, no, I knew on Secrets and Lies that it was about this young black woman who was seeking her birth mother. It was about adoption, and that's all really I knew. And you know, her brother was going to be played by Tim Spall. He's going to be a photographer. Things like that. On Vera Drake, I knew it was a film about an abortion, and we all knew that as a company, and were terrified of what this film was going to be. Vera Drake, about an abortionist. I mean, it was like, I can't tell you how, when the first time that we see Vera Drake going to carry out an abortion, we had no idea. We were like, as you know, was it Laurent who said that? I mean, we were there for the first time, like a theatre audience, waiting, really worried about what Mike was going to show or what he wasn't going to show, whether it was going to be, you know, a procedure. Anyway, so this is not something that is shared with me or anybody 5 months before. The actual film itself, when we start filming, he's got his characters and they're all completely and utterly ready to go. They know who they are. They're really formed characters, absolutely formed. But the film isn't. The film is made up literally, organically, chronologically as we set off. So we've got no idea where it's going and no idea how it's going to end. Absolutely no idea. That's something that Mike doesn't really know. It's something that forms up as the film progresses.
Mm. Maybe we can show a clip from Vera Drake to see a bit how you've worked on this film. So
Hold it there for a second.
sorry? Quickly, for those who haven't seen it, just going to remind the story quickly because it's quite an interesting story. It's about Vera Drake, who's an English maid in the 50s. She lives in London with quite a very nice family, and she works. She's a very nice person. She works very hard to help everybody, and the fact is she performs abortions on girls and young girls during their early pregnancy to help them, because she's a very good person, and that's the main story of the films, and it goes on afterwards through all sorts of complication. But what I think is very what we can see just right now, because we've shown the naked scene before, is that it's very similar, because I think it's very interesting because the kitchen has changed pace. It's on the right now, and the living room or the room is on the left, and it's exactly the same way of filming. Can you speak about this maybe?
Yeah, we don't go in the rooms.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's the same as naked. I mean, just looking at it just then reminded me of it. We're looking through the door where Mike probably stood at the top of the stairs looking into the kitchen. We have the door frame. It's a proscenium arch in a way. It frames the scene, and then they come out of that, and we stay outside, and it's the same proscenium of the doorway to the bedroom. And then, in fact, that sequence ends. We do go inside the room, and we do film on with a kind of, a look at the procedure. But we that particular sequence there, if you left it running, it takes too long. But we don't go anywhere. We stay there, and then she closes the door, and I suppose the audience think, "Oh, that's all right. We don't have to go. We don't have to look at what's going to happen." But actually, then we go.
Goes in the room.
We go straight inside, and I've seen audiences go, "Oh no!" Yeah. One minute you think you're going to get away with it and not have to confront what Vera's going to do, and the next minute you're in there. So that what I was saying before, I mean, that would have been us as a whole company. We would have, when we first saw that scene, we would have been outside the kitchen. Obviously, it's a real location. It's not no stage work ever. Real location. We're there. We're all outside the kitchen, and we watch Vera put the kettle on, and the young girl, who's there's pictures there on the thing, but the young girl is absolutely shaking, quivering with fear, and while Vera's saying, "It's all right, dear, you're all right, you've got a towel," and all this, and then they would have come out of that room. We've done that bit. We've looked at Mike, shown us that, the actor's shown us that, and then we all go over to the living room door, to the bedroom door, and everybody around the bedroom door, and then we would watch that piece of the scene, knowing that we were going to do both. Incredibly similar, incredibly similar. Mike on the camera, all the choreography of how Vera and the girl are going to be, where she's going to stand. We don't go round for the cover. There's no coverage of the young girl on her face. Her body language from over her shoulder tells you everything. There's nowhere to go. What you're looking at in real time, really, real time in a way, is Vera offering her all the platitudes of relaxing and trying to make her feel comfortable, while the girl's there quivering away over her shoulder, and you don't need to go anywhere. You don't need a reverse.
But is that a way? Is that, you think, a way of working from Mike Leigh is like, you don't need it, let's not shoot it anyway?
We didn't shoot that. We always, it's like the naked one. We didn't shoot any reverse. I mean, that decision was made there. Yeah. I mean, but it's so. I don't know. The emotion for me is just not broken. It's not broken. There's no break with the cut, and then on the reverse, it's all, yeah. You see that so clearly like you could be in a theatre, like you could be looking at the stage. There you are outside the door. You've got her, absolutely, the two of them interacting. Vera there, the girl there, and we're out here. Says everything. You don't need to go anywhere. That film is on 16. I shot that on Super 16.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I thought it would be, well, for a start, it was partly necessary because we didn't have much money to shoot it with. It was a low budget film, and so decided to shoot it on Super 16. There was no digital then, and it's quite grainy on the big screen. It's quite grainy, and I don't know. I felt slightly uncomfortable about it being so grainy and so you know, not 35 mil, but Super 16. I kept quiet about it, and then I was invited to Camerimage to be in competition with the film, and I didn't say anything to anybody. I kept absolutely quiet, and all the DPs and people at Camerimage, I never told them it was on 16.
Really?
Yeah, I thought they would look down their noses at me, and so I kept quiet. And then, right, so the film gets shown, and they absolutely love the film. They love the film, right? And they love the grain, the texture of it. I was like, you know, suddenly from being embarrassed about it being on 16, I was like, oh yeah, you know, I meant it to be like this, you know, bullshit. And then the film went on to win the Golden Frog. It won the main prize. And then, of course, but after that, it was like, I meant it to be on Super 16. It was like the way we had planned it, but it wasn't. It was just lack of money.
Lack of budget.
That's the reason it was on 16.
Maybe it's a dumb question, but did you have, like, as it's always in location, small rooms, small places, small corridors? Did you have the, I don't know how to say it in English, but you know, the place to put the camera and not be too close as it was in the 16 millimeter. I don't know if it's very clear. I don't have the English word.
No, but I might have used that. Yeah, I know. Just I understand. I might have used that reasoning after I won the Golden Frog, that I chose 16 because it was going to be a much smaller profile and allow us to shoot in smaller rooms. I could have said that, and I'm sure I probably did bullshit that. But the real reason is because we had little money. But, there we go. But there are all sorts of things there. It's not only looking through doorways with Mike, but it's also stairs as well. You see that in Naked, that staircase, we go over there and Johnny's on the stairs and sits on the stairs, and she comes over and she's on him and he comes down the stairs. And now in Vera Drake there, coming up the stairs, the girl leading Vera up the stairs. Now, Mike wanted to shoot in a small apartment, a small flat, at the top of a working class council estate in East London. And we were on the 5th story and there was no lift, and we had to pull that equipment up and down every day to get up there. He wanted them to be on the stairs. So many scenes on the stairs. He loves stairs and he loves doorways.
And do you think things are between Naked? That's a film from 1983. 1993, sorry. And Vera Drake 2004. That's like 10 years between the two films. It's a very similar scene because it goes from the kitchen, like you said it, in the doorways. Do you think things have changed between you and Mike, your way of working at this point?
No, it's never changed.
Never changed.
Not really, no. No, I don't think that when we did Peterloo, which I'm horrified to say didn't get released in France, but it's really worth seeing. It's quite a really important film. It's terrible that the French didn't release it. I don't know about that. Perhaps they didn't think it was any good, but I think they're wrong there. When in Peterloo, there's a lot of big scenes in it, big, massive scenes with thousands of people, 60,000 people. And Mike had a lot of pressure to change his working practice on it because he had so many people, had hundreds of speaking parts and hundreds of actors to prepare for the film. And so there was but when it came to the massacre itself, there was a lot of pressure for him to get a storyboard artist in and do it in a kind of more conventional way. But he wouldn't do that. In the end, he said, "No, I won't do that. I'll do it my way, or not at all. I'll make it in the way I always make it," and he did. So it doesn't matter whether there's thousands or two people or one person. He works the same way, as he never changed.
All right. Maybe we skip off to the next clip because anyway, it's going to be 4 hours of speaking. So
yeah. Next movie is Happy Go Lucky. It came out in 2007. It's about a cheery and colorful woman called Poppy, whose optimism tends to exasperate those around her. And the sequence we're gonna see is where she goes to a flamenco class with one of her friends.
Can I just say something before we start?
Yes, of course.
So this is the first film we did on widescreen, 2:3:9:1. It's still on film on celluloid, but it's on it's widescreen. We talked a lot in the past about doing widescreen. I tried to persuade Mike to do widescreen on several other films, especially Topsy Turvy about a theatre, but we never did. Mike was very resistant to it, but actually he really liked working with the widescreen format, and we did several films with at 2:3:9, and this was the first one. And of course, the way he works with the choreography of every shot within the film, it works really great with widescreen because he utilizes the widescreen like few directors. He'd never done it before, and yet here we go. We got a widescreen canvas, and it gave him the opportunity to choreograph all those characters within the frame. You'll see what I mean, but it was a big thing, and it was a very happy experience shooting in widescreen, and we went on to do others.
Come in, ladies, quick as you can. Do you want to put your bags? Then there's a couple of places.
Sorry, we're late. Sorry.
No problem. It's very Spanish to be late. Just take your places, then we can start the class. Here. I was just introducing myself to the people who don't know me. It's lovely to see you again, and lovely that you bring a friend.
Okay, so maybe you can tell us about a bit more about the widescreen format and how, in this sequence, for example, it changed the way of choreographing the comedians.
Well, yeah, I mean, only obviously because the canvas is so much wider. It just suited the film very well. It was a happy-go-lucky, like I suppose she was a very happy girl, and joyous in her disposition, infectious. And obviously the film is not with Mike, it's not about joy, and it's about terrible things go on, trying to bring her down, especially with one of the characters who is a monster. But I love that scene because it's great use of widescreen, and the mirrors were brought in to with discussions with the production designer and Mike, and just to brought in there to this existing hall, and I don't know, the whole film sort of lent itself with. I shot it on Fuji Vivid, the wonderful Fuji Vivid, before the advent of digital, and everything about the costumes, the decor was vivid, primary colours, and it's just a riot of colour. The whole film is, and the widescreen seemed to open up the canvas. So that's the feeling.
Yeah. And you told us that Mike Leigh liked keeping the camera locked, but there we can see that the camera moves a lot when a dolly or hands a lot and follows. It was to keep it like the cheery and colorful way Poppy is.
That's right, and because she was always moving, always going, so it isn't motivated by us; it's motivated by what she does, and her whole life is like, you know, she goes driving lessons, and the cameras are in the car and zooming along the roads, and there's like almost like car chases and God knows what when it all goes bad for her. But yeah, we are moving the camera constantly in the film, absolutely constantly. There's not been a film where we've moved the camera so much. But again, it's motivated by Poppy, by Sally Hawkins' character.
And I wondered, the driving scenes you just talked about. You said like Mike Leigh likes keeping, like staying away from the comedians, from the actors, and letting them play, watching them from outside the room. But inside the car, how was it?
Intense, really inside the car, because there would be no reason to be outside of it. We were inside with them because they're going through this. Well, it's very intense. I mean, you could actually. Are you able to show a clip? Are you able to run it on till the end of the film where they're? You're not able to do that.
I have the film on my computer, but I think I don't have the rights. Or maybe I can try something.
Because yeah.
Laurent, je peux tenter un partage d'écran ou pas?
You were thinking about the last driving scene, yes?
Yes, where they get out the car. Yeah, the last driving scene.
Yes.
Vas-y, ça va être bon.
Interesting it is because I set up these small cameras, like lipstick cameras in the car. I had like 6 of them in the car, dotted around the car. 5 of them anyway. Yeah, right down the line this is. So the way Mike could control really of what was going on with him, he wasn't even in the car, right? He's in a follow vehicle, so he hasn't got any of his usual access to the actors, what they're doing, because he's remote. We all are. That I can't remember now whether I was in the back. I think I might have been in the back of the car. But there's like all those cameras as it's going along, and he's driving really fast through London. I've got a close lipstick type camera this way, one on her, and then I've got a wider shot there, and then a wider shot there. I think like 4, probably 4 or 5 lipstick cameras, and then a 35mm widescreen camera behind them, looking at the road ahead through them. So there's like 5, and all the hard drives for the lipstick cameras were in the boot of the car, and I had yeah, basically that's how we did it. So the wide shot from behind was done separately at a separate time. Otherwise, the cameras would have been in. But that's how he was able to let them go and get on with it without interfering. And of course, the actors were reacting to real events on the road that were terrifying to her, and he was like completely mad.
You spoke about the 35mm, the 35 lens. I think I read somewhere that you use it very often with Mike Leigh. Is that true?
Yes, yes. You don't tend to use wide lenses. It's this thing. I mean, on Vera Drake, there's a great scene where there's like 14 people in a room when the police come to arrest her, and I think there were 14. The police and the family all at their Christmas dinner, and we never ever used a wide lens ever, because as soon as you put, it was a very small apartment on Vera Drake, and it's the same in a car, isn't it? It's the same area. As soon as you put a wide lens on, it makes it look big and spacious, and it wasn't. And so it's better, really, I always think, to use a tighter lens. Sometimes 28, very rarely used 24 24 or 25. But in fact, I could do without them. 28, 27, yeah, good. 32, 35, very good. So it doesn't make everything look really wide, very big, make a small apartment look huge. It keeps everything claustrophobic and tight. And then it's a matter of the choreography, and therefore, by being that much tighter, but you're outside the door looking in, you're able to observe it on a tighter lens than you would if you were in the room near them and have to go wide. If that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So
Great.
maybe we can go on to the next movie now.
Yeah, maybe.
Just to say that juxtaposition, that mashup of different technology. I mean, if we had done that scene probably a year, 2 years later, those little cameras would have been fantastic. Really, like HD, tiny little cameras that we could have put in the car. But the ones I had to use, that were the only ones available at the time, they're pretty clunky, and it doesn't. The shots don't hold up really, or cut together very well. Different color space. Those lipstick cameras, really awful. But anyway, it was great to do because it gave it a real sense of urgency and realism.
All right. I think we're gonna skip on to another year because I don't know how much time do you have, Dick, with us, because we have.
Fine.
You're all right. Okay, perfect. So that's another year. It's the movie you did after Happy Go Lucky with Mike Leigh.
Again, widescreen.
A few streets down, Hammond Street.
Oh, yeah.
Are you able to run this
I've
back?
lived in Derby for 40 years.
Oh, you can't.
All right, how are you?
Sorry?
We're all fine.
I got up a fair bit.
This must have been a bit of a shock for you.
I'll say.
Are you able to go back as
Leaving?
well?
From Yorkshire.
You want me to put it before?
Yeah, just a little bit if you can. You see the guy coming in from the street. I don't know if you've got it then.
Yeah, I've got it, but I just have to put it on my computer.
Oh, no, don't worry about it. Just play it from there. Don't worry about it.
All right.
Don't.
Okay, pardon, Laurent. Désolé.
Just go back to where we were. Yeah. So this is a funeral, right? This is a funeral in a small house in the north of England, working class house.
Merci beaucoup.
And just a few streets down, Hammond Street.
Oh, yeah. I haven't lived in Derby for 40 years.
Oh, you can't.
All right, how are you?
We're all fine.
I got up a fair bit.
This must have been a bit of a shock for you.
I'll say.
Where are you living?
From Yorkshire. Oh.
You working?
Don't need interrogation.
So as you said, it was funeral scenes just after the funerals, and that's for the people who haven't seen Another Year. The two men at the end are brothers, and it's Tom proposed to his brother to come at their home in London. So that's just the situation. And I think you wanted to speak about the nearly complete desaturation of the color in this scene. So be free to talk about it.
Yes, it's the film Another Year is split into four looks, four completely separate looks. One for spring, one for summer, one for autumn, and one for winter. And we tested different looks for the 4 seasons. It's very much a 4-season film. And it was great, this, because the way it came about was I did a test for Mike, in which I photographed in a different way and treated the film in a different way. And this is before it was called. Then the films are never called. They never got a title at the beginning. That was, I can't remember, Untitled, and it would be the year we made it in. So that's what's on the clapperboard, and it's known as Untitled, and then the year. So Mike, it was early stages for him. He didn't know how he was, he didn't really know what the film was going to be, or how the film was going to evolve and shape up. And so, you know, not knowing, I gave him a test. He was with the actors and rehearsing with the actors, not building their characters. And I did this test, and not knowing anything about the film, I did a test that gave a winter look, very cold, quite sharp, wintry light. And I did another test that spring, a bit hopeful, more colourful, misty, with smoke. I did this misty spring-like feel. And then I did a summer one with very lush summer light, which I did on 50D Kodak, I think it was, for real essence of summer. And then an autumnal one with browns and the leaves falling. I did all four, basically. I did a test showing Mike all four. And we took the test to a cinema in the West End of London and put it on a big screen and showed him the different seasons, different looks that we could achieve to put, you know, if we wanted to. And so he watched it and had a real moment of when he watched it. It was fantastic because at the end I said to him, well, what do you think? Which look do you think is going to be right for the film? He said, I've just seen it. He said, I've just seen it, all of them. All the looks, all four looks will, I know what I'm going to do. He's like, I know what I'm going to do now. I'm going to make it about 4 seasons of the year. I mean, he like had it. It was like a revelation, a Damascus moment where the test led him to understand more what he was going to do. And so he went away from the test absolutely invigorated with, we're going to make a film in 4 seasons. And a year in the life of this family. So this scene that we've just seen was a winter scene.
Because something very interesting in another year is that it's the first film where Mike Leigh starts to write about older people, older persons, and growing with the characters too. Do you think, again, but you've said it later before, that Mike Leigh's relationship with you and the actors, did it change at one point on another year, or did it not?
I don't know about that really. I don't. It's certainly his relationship with me didn't change. It evolved, but it didn't change. No, by that time when we were working together on that one, it was fantastic that this test that I did evolved into the film, into the way the film was, and 2, we'd done plenty together, so much together that we had like a natural shorthand together. It didn't really, no, I wouldn't say it changed. It's stronger, if anything. It was stronger, I would say.
All right.
But that the film was, the production designer in the film, that was his first time that he'd worked with Mike. And I think it was a lack of communication, basically, about where Mike was at and what he was after, or what I was after as well.
Yeah.
But just the other thing about the scene that we showed then was that it's got lots of cuts in it. It's not just a one shot scene from outside a doorway. It's like many cuts.
And also the camera moves a bit more.
Story, you couldn't tell the story just with one angle or 2. It had to be lots of cuts just to tell the story. Trish.
Oh, good.
Sorry.
It's all right. Yeah, sorry.
We've got a question from John, who asked you if you could talk about the work with the assistant director.
Well, it was only on the one film, the last one on Peterloo, that we had a different guy, different person being assistant director. That it's always been the same. And in fact, on the first films, this first assistant director is now, I would say, Britain's leading first assistant director. He does all the big movies. He's really, his career took off after working with Mike. And he did everything. He did Turner, Mr. Turner. The only film he didn't do was Peterloo. And when I first started with Mike, he was there. I think not on the first one, but the second one on Naked. He was there as kind of third assistant director. So he worked his way up to second assistant director and then became first assistant director. And he's an absolute genius at working it out with Mike and not being cowed or flustered by the way Mike works. Really, really laid back but enabling it completely. He's really important element in the way and always was. So on the last one we had someone else very. It's a very, very important relationship, and also not only with me, but very much a really essential relationship with Mike and that's where it really is, because it's trying to work out what Mike's doing and how he makes his films up. That takes a lot of courage as an AD to make that work.
Does he come early on prep or?
Usually when I do, actually. He usually joins when I join. We join together.
All right.
So, and then you know, I don't know how long that is. Sometimes 4 weeks, 6 weeks.
Is there any other questions about another year on the people listening or not? Okay, maybe we can finish with the last movie, Mr. Turner, and we're gonna show like a promotion video that you've sent me, Dick, about that shows a few shots, a few beautiful shots of the movie Mr. Turner.
Yeah, what it was I got nominated for it by the ASC, and the ASC wanted to everybody who was nominated, they wanted them to provide extracts from the film, or you know, like that. And I thought it would be fun to make a little promo reel of it, and not get bogged down in the film itself. But you know, it's ASC award, so visually, I wanted some strong visuals in it. So I made up this little edited couple of minute clip.
Sorry, my microphone was activated. So that's really good to see some beautiful shots of Mr. Turner. I wanted to start with the question of the inspiration, Mr. Turner, the painter Turner. Did you work a lot on his paintings, or did you completely skip it and worked on the personal image of the movie?
I knew that Mike didn't want to reproduce or copy, you know, Turner paintings. He had absolutely no intention of doing that, because that would be really, really not like the way Mike works. You see all these films where they try and reproduce a painting, you know, they're Botan.
Wow.
Very hokey about it. So it was much more about evoking the spirit, I would say, the spirit of the era of was painting, finding, finding what Turner used, what his palette was when he painted, and it was pretty specific. And we discovered that he had yellow in highlights. Added yellow in highlights, and teal, a kind of bluey green teal in the shadow areas, and kind of I took that and added it to the palette of the LUT. That was the first digital film.
Yeah.
That we made, full length digital film. So we'd done a short with it, a 30-minute short with the digital, but this was the first picture we did, and. So I took this LUT, built in Turner's palette, and then also used very old glass, original Cooksby Pancros from the 40s and 50s I used.
Yeah.
That all full of aberrations and dodgy focus and vignetting and everything. And they really seem to work for the film. So to combat the digital curse of it being super sharp, it was by no means super sharp. Glass stopped that from happening.
Because you have also these big light entries, like in the room where he paints in his house in London, and the room near the sea. There's very big light entries like this, and as I know you shooting on location, how did you deal with it? How did you manage to control this beautiful light coming from outside and make a nice entry?
So the thing is about this is there's two things here. One is his studio, where he painted in London, was more or less fabricated. It wasn't the light coming in was my light.
All right.
And the reason I did that was because it faced east, so it couldn't be worse. We were going to shoot there. It was a given. That location was so splendid and untouched and old. There was no point in me saying, I don't want to do it there. It worked for me. So I had to get on with it. But his studio, which is the only room it could be in, would face due east, and thereby, and it was a summer shoot leading up to the summer anyway, June, July, and of course in the morning it was there, and then bang, it was gone. It was over there, over to the south, and so it changed enormously. And then in late afternoon, it was kind of right behind the camera, right behind the building, all shadowed. So what I did was, it was quite complicated what I did, but basically I had an awning out there. That the yard that was out there that you see in the film, that was kind of an area that was dressed and all perfect. I had a great big silk, like I think it was 40 foot, something like that. And it came up, so I could bring it up and allow the morning light in. When we had it most days. It was such a beautiful summer. I would bring the light in the morning, and then I would, this is my recollection anyway, I'd bring the awning down and it would go down, and I'd punch very large lights through it to give the same feeling as when I had the sunlight. So right. I was never, so once the sun went, I had my own sun. I had my own sun and my own light coming through that gave this great feeling of the daylight, and turn up, with the same sort of yellow feel in the highlights.
So you had
in other words, I took what was there and adapted it to make it possible to shoot there morning, noon, and night.
All right, so that's a bit of the whole philosophy of the work with Mike Leigh. You arrive and see what you're capable to do within the restrictions or the locations or everything like that. But you had to compensate the sun during it was going while it was going down. So you had people over there to increase the power, or
Yes, that's right. It was like what it was really, because I didn't know what the scenes were going to be in there because I hadn't seen them. This is when I was doing my prep. I didn't know what the scenes were going to be, but I had a good idea that he was going to be in there. This was his studio. It was all dressed as a studio. So I had to find a solution to be able to shoot in there all the time. And that's what I did. I had my own big silk grid that gave beautiful soft light into the room. And I never had to say I can't film in here. I was ready to film in there the whole time.
all right.
About how you choreograph the actors and the light, you said Mike Leigh choreographs everything before, but does it happen that light enters and you think that the actors would be better looking in another place, or do you interfere sometimes with this?
Yes, all the time. In fact, if we have arguments and lock horns, Mike and I, it's always about that. And I'll be there. The thing is, right? I mean, it's a matter of trust, isn't it? I mean, the mutual trust of it. He knows that I'm not going to be talking, rubbish out the top of my hat. I'm saying what I say for a reason. And so he'll show me a scene, and if I think that, I'll be in there really rapidly with him saying, but not with the whole company there. The whole company can go away, have a cup of tea, have some coffee. Then we're alone, him and I. And I'll say my thing then. And Mike, what about if, we just changed it a bit? Now, he's often got no problem about it whatsoever, that. That's where it's incredibly satisfying to work with him, because he listens and he'll take it on board, and if there's good reason to, and then he'll change it, and we'll see it again, and he'll run it again. Okay, you try it like that, we'll run it again. It's just a matter of trust, and I suppose having worked, that's the joy of having worked with someone a lot, is that you can say things like that, and say them. I do, because I'm obsessed by the quality and direction of light, and how it hits the human face, and how it lights the eyes, and how it lights, how it models. I'm totally obsessed by it. I mean, this is what I do, and so the camera and the operating of it and the choreography is one thing, but we haven't even talked about the light. I mean, the light is like everything for me, and therefore I have got a real vested interest as a cinematographer in the way a scene is staged, to try and make it wherever I can to work in the advantage of it looking at its best.
Okay. Also, you talked about the colors just before, and I don't know if it's just personal, but I thought they really looked really alike the colors from the Turner paintings, and I wondered how you exactly got this exact correspondence of color, if you did it in color grading, or how did you work?
Well, yeah, yes, but not only that. It wasn't only the color grading and the choosing of the LUTs, which is the same thing, really. I don't know how far. We all knew. We all did the test together. The colorist was there from the beginning. My DIT was there from the beginning. We always worked together. He's an incredibly talented photographer himself, and he was there. The colorist was there. My assistant camera was there. He's another really great photographer, and he introduced me in a way to Turner's palette at the Tate Gallery in London. It was Gordon who did it. He was in there looking at the palette, and he got it first, which he often does. And he said to me about teal and the yellow, and we explored it together. It's a collaboration. It's not just me. It's a team of us who hopefully come up with it. And then we tested, refined, went in a DI suite, and finally, you know, ended up showing that in a cinema, the test, with that look on it, and refined it. And so it's not by chance. It's like quite a lot of work. That's what my prep is, really. It's much more that than going around locations, many of which won't have been chosen. It's more about finding the look for the film.
Okay.
Maybe I have a question about, I think a brilliant thing about Mr. Turner is that all the bodies of the characters are very, getting older again. They are getting slower again. And as you, as a cinematographer, always have the camera between your hands, did you feel inside your body filming those characters, the time passing by? Like, how do you experience this thing, this slow time of getting old that Mike Leigh likes to write about?
Yes. Yeah, I was thinking before when you said that about, you know, that he hadn't tackled so much before about the process of growing old. But actually, in that film he did, High Hopes, it's very much about an old lady.
Yeah.
And quite a lot of his TV work is about the elderly. So I don't know what I feel about it. All I feel is, for me, I just wish time didn't pass so rapidly. And because obviously we're all, you know, I'm older than all of you there. And it's to my eternal regret that, you know, there is a finite, you know, end to it all. Whereas actually, I'm like, what am I, 72, and I'm very happy to be shooting. I don't want to be categorized in COVID-19 talk about being over 70 and vulnerable. I'm not fucking vulnerable. I'm working, and I'm a working cinematographer, and I don't want to be lumped together with over 70s and care homes. So I'm really worried at the moment that I'm going to be stopped from going back out and shooting because of my age.
You really think so? You think it's going to happen?
It could happen. Yeah, very much so. Here, yeah, very, very much so. It could happen. They'll just lump us all together and put us out to pasture. Well, actually, keep us inside rather than putting us out. They lock us up inside.
Mm.
So yeah, so doing a film like Turner, yeah, I mean, God, it's quite powerful. They're all dead. They're all dead. All those characters are dead, long dead.
Mm.
We bring them back to life. Magic of cinema.
Yeah. I want to ask if somebody has a question in the chat or not, because we didn't have so much questions about everybody.
Don't hesitate to ask questions about other movies as well.
Well, maybe a last question about this way of filming, like the point of view. It's very.
Is it just you, us four here? Is there anybody out there?
Yeah, there is, but nobody has. Nobody seems to have some questions, or there's maybe one, but It's just while people are thinking about one, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, when you with Mike Leigh, oh, sorry, there's one. Oh, somebody asks, how do you feel about the advent of TV monitors?
The advent of what?
Of monitors, TV monitors on set. Do you see what I mean? Or the screens on set?
Totally see what you mean. There's Mike, Leigh, and there's everybody else. Because Mike doesn't really watch any monitor. He's watching the scene and directing from right next to the camera, old school. He's got his head right by it, and quite often I'm on the dolly. Mike will be sitting next to me on another seat on the dolly, right next to the lens. I've got some fantastic photographs of him. It's like we're both looking through, and he never ever. He doesn't look. He looks through the camera. That's his monitor, the proper thing. Rather than monitor, he's looking through the camera. Choreographs the scene, and then he knows exactly what it's going to be like. So in a way, after that, it's like he will say to me, "How was that?" And I'll say, "It was great. I don't need to see it on a monitor, and certainly neither does he." And then we're off to the next. But yeah, of course, you know, I mean, this is a loaded question, really, because it's like saying, you know, does one miss the mystery of celluloid? Because on a monitor, OLED monitor on the floor, on the set, on the, you know, by the camera or in Video Village or whatever, it's possible to see the image absolutely at its best, the way it's going to be right at the end when the film's released. It's possible to see that. So, where's the mystery? And so it's two things together, isn't it? One is it's a fantastic tool to have to refine your lighting, embolden you, allow you to be super courageous. Whereas with film, it was you know, you were the only person on a film set when it was celluloid who really had any idea about how it was going to be in the end, because the monitors were so terrible, and I'm sure still are, that well, those days when I was, you know, shooting film, they were horrible and often in black and white. That you had, nobody had any clue, and it would throw this thing between the director and the DP, like, is that going to be bright like that? Is that going to be dark like that? Is that going to be too dark? Should it be up? You know, so it was always this goddamn thing about reassuring people that it was going to be fine. And actually, in your heart, you weren't sure yourself if it was going to be really like this. But so it was kind of, you weren't looking at the same thing, basically. The director and the DP weren't looking at the same thing. DP had all the experience of knowing it was going to be okay. The director, very unsure, very uncertain, insecure about it, perhaps hasn't worked with you before. And they're asking whether it's going to be all right. That the advent of digital, all that's gone. So everybody's looking at the same picture. So anyway, that's it. Without saying one's better than the other, which I've got no interest in. They're different tools and different, they're totally different tools to get to the same end, which is a film at the end of it.
All right. Maybe unless somebody else has a last question, I'm gonna ask a last question. Loic, do you want to?
No, but I got another question that we ask every person who comes here for masterclass. If you have a little anecdote or something magical or funny that happened to you on a set and you'll always remember.
Ooh. I'll have a think about that. Have you got another question, or is it?
Yes, Arthur's question. It's great.
No, it was the same. It was about what did you recall from your experience with Mike Leigh, and what do you wish next? But you already answered the question about what's going to happen next with all the worries about the COVID-19, etc. So
if I was to answer that Laurent just asked about magic, you know, that magic can happen just as much with perhaps it happened the magic happened more with film. I'm sure it did. I'm sure if I was to be honest, I would say it was more magical shooting celluloid than digital, because things would come, you know, at its best when it came back from the lab and you saw your dailies. It would be like, wow, God, look at that, it's great. Well, you don't get any of that with digital. When you go home at night, you've seen it, so it hasn't got the same exciting vibe or dangerous vibe or whatever it is. The fear of it coming out properly, of it looking great. So there was more magic with celluloid, but with both celluloid and digital, sometimes I think I get more excited about it than anything else, and that is sometimes magical things happen with the light, especially when you're shooting on location. That would be, you know, I did a film not so long ago in Africa with called The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, and magical things happened with the light on that film that like blew me away when I was shooting it. Africa's very good like that, blowing you away with the unknown. But even like here, the light, yeah, the magic. I mean, say that scene in Turner. Now, you know, this is digital, but that last scene, there's something happened in that when we were filming that was just extraordinary, and that is that we did a whole load of things in one evening when we were on a cliff top in England, and it was the most gorgeous, glorious light. And in the space of like an hour and a half, we did a whole number of different shots with this beautiful light. And one of them was Turner walking over the cliffs up towards a little chapel, like a little church at the top of the cliffs. And all these wild ponies came out from nowhere, absolutely nowhere. Everybody.
It wasn't supposed to happen.
No, it wasn't in any way wrangled. What do you say? It wasn't rehearsed. They were wild. He walked past the camera. I panned round with him, and there he was. He was going away, and suddenly they appeared from nowhere. Absolute magic. And so yeah, we did very well just to get everybody, including Tim Spall, to keep going and not cut or what is that, you know, and ruining it. So I just kept steady, and they came up and they were beautifully lit by the setting sun, and Turner was walking to his horses. I mean, it was absolutely fantastic. Everybody was so hyped by it. And then what happened next was he so we then looked down at him, and he's painting on the cliff, and it's gorgeous like that. And then the next thing is he's on the cliff, and the sun is coming down as a huge orb. And Mike got him very quickly to do a bit of painting and sketching, and we panned down and we panned across, and in the space of like an hour and a half, we did a whole load of shots from the film in just one, you know, without really anything, just doing it, not really scripted, just a man at work, painting, drawing, and the landscape. So none of it was scripted, and Mike can be like that, completely open and free, flexible. So we did, you know, the sun goes down. So, you know, it's not always rigid. It can be really flexible, and great things happen, and that's what we did on that. In fact, there, when the camera is coming down from the sun onto Tim, he's got a rope around his ankle, and he's right on the edge of a cliff, hugely high cliffs, and there are just hidden out of view are medics, and he's got a big rope on his foot, and it's smashed into the ground in case it was quite windy, in case he was blown away. So he was staked down with a rope and tethered to the ground. So anyway, great things can happen like that, which is magic. And that was on digital, so they can happen on good magic can happen on digital as well as on film. On film.
Son is God. That's the.
I would say he had it right. He had it about right. Yeah.
He predicted it. Well, I think we quite kind of arrived to a term, unless somebody has a last question. But we had 2 hours and a half of very interesting talking. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
It's very.
Thank you.
It's very, very nice.
Thank you.
Pleasure's mine. Pleasure's mine.